Hello, I just finished this book today, WALID Citi. It's a document of 40 years of his life, and it's done by the curator Nat Muller, who has done stuff at the Venice Biennale. She was at the Venice Biennale last year doing Larissa Sansor's pavilion, and is like a specialist in Middle Eastern art based in Amsterdam. I had the pleasure of meeting her and interviewing her. And you learn so much about not just Walid Siti as a wonderful individual, but also very curious facts. So, as a Kurdish refugee from Iraq who left Slovenia because of the relationship between Yugoslavia and Saddam Hussein, he sought asylum here. And Jeremy Corbyn, our lovely, cuddly campaigning socialist leader, was the person who granted him and helped him gain asylum. This covers a lot of his work, so you've got these video works here, and it's about a former building associated with the Saddam Hussein regime, and then there's this sort of constant sort of geographical link with sort of the mountains of Iraq, and also in sort of belonging and exile. I mean, there's some really good essays, and they not only give a sense of him as an individual, but also what Iraq was, what Baghdad was as an exciting period, and sort of the political reasons that his own relationship to the country was sort of limited. And it goes through the geography of the Iran-Iraq war, the sort of Kurdish relationship. There's these wonderful silk prints, for example, which you see here, and he would have gone through multiple forms of asylum and sort of political status. So just that process of documentation. And this wonderful thing here, I think Venemus calls it the calligraphic modern, and sort of becoming. There's several things I find inspiring about the book. One is that one of the local sites of inspiration for Walid Siti is the local London pound shop. So anyone buying everything for £1, I mean, this sculpture which you see here is made by pound shop soldiers. So I'd love to actually make a video of us going to the pound shop together one day. The other thing I find inspiring is that this sort of generation of people, older people, and the fact they're still staying creative after all this time. He was born in 1954, so about the same generation as my mum, a bit younger, and he's lived in London since the 1980s. This stuff as well, so all these sort of constellations, and all that is thread and nails. I think this is presented at the Venice Biennale. It's also interesting looking at his exhibition history, because it's really like he's been exhibited in Bangladesh, in the Dhaka Biennial, in Armenia, in the Netherlands, of course, Liverpool, the Mac in Birmingham. He did a big solo show there. That was my Matthew friend did. Leighton House, the amazing Orientalist house. I've seen collections from like Poland to UAE, and then I realised actually reading the book that I've actually seen several of his exhibitions. So I would have seen the Word into Art exhibition in British Museum, but also I remember seeing the exhibition Age of Terror Art since 9/11 at the Imperial War Museum, and then looking back I was like, wow, I've seen that sculpture. And to realise I already know him, I'm going to look forward to when he's invited me to his studio in Hackney, North London. I'm really looking forward to actually going there. The other thing that was quite inspiring, which isn't covered in the book, was how productive he was and engaged whilst in quarantine or lockdown. I feel that's another sort of period. I mean, it's really valuable to get books like this for like future generations, so do get a copy. So it's Walid Siti, edited by Nat Muller, published by this German publisher Kirka, but try and get one for your public library. I'll try and get one for the Jan van Eyck Academy here, but I've also tried to get one for Stuart Hall Library in London, which is one of the main resources alone for me. As much as I love the Stuart Hall Library, the way they misrepresent Eastern Europe is that they represent these nations as totally white, and that's incredibly harmful, especially at this moment where right-wing xenophobic nationalist governments sort of dominate Eastern Europe. Even in lovely Slovenia, we've got some bastard, and that wave of Trumpism and Orban, like sort of just waving over everyone. So it's really harmful to represent these nations all white. I mean, WALID Citi was part of Slovenia's art economy in the 80s and 70s, went to Ljubljana art school, which would have offered free education at the time. So he's part of that story. But, you know, places like Poland have black MPs. People play in terms of people playing in the sort of the Premier Leagues of these countries are of different origins. The non-alignment movement, which has become quite vogue since Neymar's installation, and the exhibition Southern Constellations, offered so many entry points for people from these Arab, Asian, African nations. The Ljubljana Biennial itself, which has been going since 1955, has always showcased African, Asian, Latin American, sort of had this third worldist sentiment. And with Tito, you saw these African leaders from like Sudan, Somalia come into Ljubljana and walking down the street, also within Belgrade. So that history is important, and no one's actually documenting it. So I recommend you all get this book. There's some wonderful archive photos from the 70s. I think I like this idea as someone making zines of sort of also like low-cost art production, and it's almost just a matter of the vision. There's also these wonderful studio pictures too, so you really get a sense. I'm really looking forward to going to the studio. And these archive photographs, you see these sort of, this would have been St. Martin's or Goldsmiths in Baghdad. And it's also wonderful for like just sourcing. I mean, these are all the fucking notes I've got, both in terms of who his teachers was, but sort of the references of like poets. Like T.S. Eliot would have been hugely significant. Some of the works are named after T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, and I've so much to look up. Sort of some of the primary manifestos and documents. Dia al-Zawi, Mahmoud Shibri, Walid Mustafa, the Mawiyah, which is a Abbasid mosque. It's like a big spiral, so it looks something like this. It's a motif that comes again and again and again within his work. He almost does it obsessively in this survey format. It's part of the Samarra Mosque in Iraq, and it's just interesting because he never actually climbed to the top of it. It's like till 2019, which is fascinating. It'd be fascinating one day to go to Baghdad. I think it's some responsibility of ours to for the British political identity, Iraq simply means a war. And the same way, Vietnam is more than a war. I think it's our responsibility to sort of have a rich understanding of these nations. I love the fact that a lot of this stuff is just done with crayons or nails or string or bits of ink or bits of charcoal. Like when you go to Venice and you see these HD 4K high big capital like video installations, these big he's been in Venice too, and you see him just doing something with nails or things from a pound shop. I mean, it's cool. So I'm just going to say one last time, buy this book. It's just come out. It's just a great document to have. The nature of a lot of his art is that it's quite, like Zen paintings. You can sort of look at them and contemplate them, like looking at a mountain or something. And it's wonderful to see the span of his life. I'm quite sad when Zarina died. Zarina Hashmi, the wonderful Indian Muslim printmaker. Very few people mourned him. There are very few obituaries, even within South Asian or Muslim press. So I'm not going to say that. So let's respect these people when they're alive, and let's be inspired by their creativity. So thank you, Walid, and I'm looking forward to your friendship and bonding with you in London, maybe one day in Ljubljana and one day in Baghdad. Bye.